July 8, 2010, LeBron James announced in live television to millions watching the decision. After 7 years falling short to expectations not in terms of individual performances, but team-wise, LeBron made what was best for his career. Go to Miami. The promise of titles and wins, a team made of stars and hungry for the championship. The decision was made. And after this moment, the NBA was never the same. LeBron won and took the name he had made for himself and told everyone in their faces, "I can win." Left the team he was drafted and won what is today considered the wrong way. He later redeemed himself, but with just a few words, he started a precedent in the league. He got what everyone wanted, a team title. And what made that title possible? Change. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons, Kawhi Leonard, Damian Lillard, and James Harden all want to win. To, as LeBron once did, make a name for themselves and tell everyone in their faces, "I can win." So they went out, of course. They wanted change, and what may seem like just a 5-second clip of a man dressed all fancy in a checkered shirt created this man dressed all fancy an entire off-season in a fat suit. Who's to blame? The Nets suck. The Big Three only played together for just 16 games. Harden, of course, won it out. Tim's not winning, he's out. And well, over there in Philadelphia, things were basically the same, with just a younger player that was overall worse and lacked confidence. A lot of that. Philly got what they wanted. Nets solved one of their multiple problems. Everything is alright now. Or not, because after an overall great regular season, they fumbled hard. The rigged MVP, as people say, and I somewhat have to agree, played his special card, the second round exit. Bravo. Expected nothing less for a dominant player that loses his dominance after 82 games in a season. And Harden, well, was great, until he needed to be great. Nothing new. But this year, things seemed different. He wasn't that desperate for a chip, and was even kind enough to retarget his born-to-score mentality, and what takes us to our next chapter, a pay cut. A scorer, and for many years of his life, a leader and an extremely good role player. He knows better than any player, almost, how to adapt himself to circumstances. As I said, he did change his game, but changed his salary also, by $14 million. As promised by the organization, he took a pay cut and allowed the signing of 2 former teammates and role players who could help the Sixers in their path for the championship. That was the promise for Harden. But as all things have, it had a but, and a big one. The Sixers granted Harden money for all he had lost due to trying to win. He naturally wanted compensation in his next contract. However, that didn't happen, and that inevitably sparked tension between the two parts, as Harden demonstrated interest in leaving as an unrestricted free agent, and Philly wanted him, but did not want to pay him. And he was sick of it. I get him, they broke their word, and while there was no legal implications, that naturally makes someone mad. But here's where Daryl Morey comes into play. He had broken a promise and was slowly losing who everyone considered to be his player. Come on, he once even said he was a better scorer than MJ. Commitment to keeping a player. Everything is crumbling between their relationship, and what can save it, you ask? Another seemingly great promise. Opt into another year of your bad contract you don't want, and we will trade you. Well, that didn't happen. Not for lack of trying, because the Sixers did try. They didn't give Harden what he wanted multiple times. And what was left? Trying to talk him out of being mad because of their own mistakes and make him stay. The good part was Harden was convinced he was staying, even uncomfortable. But he changed his mind. He wouldn't accept the way an all-star player and snub was being treated, and alerted everyone his thoughts. He made his decision. The Sixers. The ones that are being mistreated like all the teams Harden mistreated along the way, right? Well, not actually. The Sixers are for years unable to succeed. Sometimes because of the uncomfortable fate of destiny and sometimes because of terrible management. The Sixers for more than 5 years are a contender, or at least somewhat of a contender, but they aren't unable to win. Why? Because they chose Tobias Harris over one of the most win-minded players in the league? Also, but because of the relationships they tend to create with players. That's not anything new, but isn't commonly on the surface. A franchise must be stronger than a player. That's technically factual, but for Philly, it's nothing but a miracle. For years, their best players are threatening to leave, in terrible terms. Why? Because of the management. The same management that once chose to build around Ben Simmons and then failed him more than he failed them. They constantly change their roster in search of a better fit for their core that no one actually knows what it is and can't put the puzzle together. They are not only damaging the reputation of players for silly choices and are doing no effort in keeping things together as a team and as an organization. Ben's situation was ridiculous, but to what extent was it his fault? In our eyes, all of it. But what do we know? Everything was kept a secret, no one speak, and what I thought until now was probably only a crybaby, it's happening again. Everything in only 2 years. I know Harden isn't the best example, but it's what we have, a franchise that pushes players they once wanted away. But what about the trade talks? Didn't the Sixers try? Well, they tried, but what could they expect? A player whose value is damaged by being unplayable and always wanting to leave. Who in their right mind wants a player like that for the value they once had? Well, they were blind and thought everyone did. Of course, the Clippers packages were not that good, but they turned down the entire buy Harden operation for Terrence Mann. Does he make that difference for a franchise that is nearly in shambles? After all, the NBA is investigating the Sixers. After all, these are all speculations. We don't know what they dare lie about and we can't have the full picture because, after all, we don't have enough information. Harden is a tough player to manage. By accepting him in your team, you can basically expect anything from him. And that's terrible for the team, the fans, the league. He needs a change of mentality, urgently. But the Sixers did not help, or at least try to promote his change of mentality. After the fat suit era, Harden seemed to be more mature. He changed his game in Philly. He chose to put apart what he was considered to be the best at, creating buckets for himself. And the Sixers chose to ignore all his efforts and tried to get away with being idiots for the player they chose to have on their team. They may have tried, but not enough. And we can't deny the fact that all this situation Harden is putting himself in is devastating for his value. And that's bad for him and for the Sixers. But that could have been avoided. The Sixers are getting what they deserved for lying and holding onto a player for too long, expecting the situation to be different from Ben Simmons last year. For what we have access to, it is easy, or at least easier, to blame Harden for the mess. But after all, he is the player that, with no agent besides him, denied a lot, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot, of big contracts to this day, and expected the Sixers to now give him one. It's hard for me to blame someone, but if you are still here, you want to know who's to blame. And for me, after all it's said and done, I still blame James Harden. But who knows, everything can change. Don't forget to like the video for more Who's to Blame and subscribe for more content online. Our goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and hey, with your help, anything is possible. That's it from me, Layup out.